Have you ever trusted the people you love the most, only to realize they were sharpening knives behind your back? I never thought my own family, the ones who raised me, the ones who laughed with me, would be the very people who ripped my world apart. This is not just a story about inheritance. It's a story about betrayal, greed, and the revenge that grew quietly inside me, waiting for its time. I was born into what most would call a blessed home. My father was a proud man, a man who built everything from the ground up. He wasn't rich when he married my mother, but by the time I was a teenager, he owned acres of land, a large home that stood tall in our town, and a name everyone respected. To the outside world, we were the perfect family. 2 sons, 1 daughter, a mother who smiled at church gatherings, and a father whose handshake was as good as any contract. But the truth was always a little darker. You see, in my family, I was the daughter, and in their eyes, that meant I was the outsider. My brothers were the heirs, the ones who would carry the name, the ones who would inherit the business, the land, the legacy. But my father, God bless him, he never saw me as less. He loved me as fiercely as he loved my brothers. He used to say, "Blood does not know sons or daughters. Blood is blood. And what I built for all of you." I believed him. I trusted him. And maybe that was my first mistake. When my father passed away, my world shattered. I still remember the day, his chair at the dining table sat empty, his tools untouched in the shed, his laughter suddenly a memory I could only chase in my head. My mother wept, but there was something strange about her grief, something cold. It didn't take long for the vultures to circle. My brothers, the very ones I grew up protecting, the ones I shared meals and secrets with, began whispering in corners. Documents were shuffled, lawyers were called, meetings were held. Meetings I was never invited to. At first I told myself, they're just handling things. They're the men of the family. They'll take care of me too. But deep down, I felt it. The shift. The way they stopped looking me in the eye. The way my name wasn't included in discussions anymore. I wasn't a daughter. I wasn't a sister. I was just in the way. The first real blow came at the reading of the will. I sat there, heart pounding, waiting to hear my father's words, waiting to hear him say my name, to tell the world that I was his child just as much as my brothers were. But when the lawyer began to read, my blood ran cold. Everything was to go to my brothers. The house, the land, the accounts, my father's name, his work, his sweat and blood, all of it. And my name? It wasn't even spoken, not once. I felt the air leave my chest. My hand shook, my lips trembled, and all I could do was whisper to myself, "No, this can't be right." I looked at my mother, searching for some comfort, some explanation. But she wouldn't even meet my eyes. Her lips pressed into a thin line, her face as cold as stone. And then I realized. She knew. She had always. I known. After the will was read, my brothers didn't even pretend to hide their triumph. They looked at me like a stray dog who had wandered into the wrong house. One of them leaned in and whispered, It's nothing personal. This is just how it is. Daughters don't inherit. Be grateful we'll let you stay here until you find a husband. Those words cut deeper than any knife. I wasn't a sister anymore. I was a burden, an inconvenience. But I swallowed my pain. I forced myself to smile through tears. Because in that moment, I knew I couldn't show them my weakness. If I did, they would crush me completely. Days turned into weeks. I walked through the house like a ghost, my father's presence haunting every corner. And then one night, as I went through his old study, searching for some trace of him, I found it, an envelope. Hidden beneath the false bottom of his drawer. My hands shook as I pulled it out, as I opened it with trembling fingers. Inside, there was a letter, written in my father's own handwriting, and in that letter was the truth. He had never intended to cut me out. He had written a will, one that left me not only my share, but something more. Something he said was mine because he trusted me above all. But that will had vanished, replaced by the one the lawyer read. And in that moment, everything clicked. The whispers, the coldness, the lies. They had stolen it. My brothers, my mother, the people I trusted most had stolen not just my inheritance, but my father's final words to me. That night, sitting alone in the dim light of my father's study, I cried harder than I had ever cried before. Not just for what I had lost, but for what had been taken. And through my tears, one single thought burned inside me. They thought I was weak. They thought I would stay silent. They thought I would accept their betrayal. But they were wrong. Because the daughter they cast aside would become their worst nightmare. Do you know what it feels like to scream inside your own chest while smiling on the outside? To sit at the same table with the very people who stole everything from you, pretending you don't know their secret? That was my life after my father's death. Every day was an act. Every breath was war. After I found my father's hidden letter, I didn't confront them immediately. No, I was too broken, too raw. My heart told me to run into the living room, to scream at my brothers, to shake my mother and demand answers. But my mind whispered something else. Not yet. Be patient. Watch them. So I kept quiet. I folded the letter back into its envelope and hid it where no one would ever find it. I wiped my tears, washed my face, and walked into the kitchen as though nothing had happened. My brothers were laughing, drinking, celebrating the empire they had stolen. My mother sat with them, smiling faintly, sipping her tea as though she wasn't part of the crime. And me? I was the ghost at the table, present but unseen. Days turned into weeks, and their cruelty grew bolder. One morning, my oldest brother placed a paper in front of me, a contract. He wanted me to sign away any possible claims I might think I had to the property. I stared at the paper, then at him. He smirked. It's just a formality. You know women don't inherit. The sooner you accept it, the easier your life will be. I wanted to tear it into shreds. Instead, I forced a smile and pushed it back across the table. I'll think about it, I said. That answer made him uneasy. Good. But the humiliation didn't stop there. Every time guests came over, my mother would belittle me. "She's still here, you know. We're trying to find her a match, but at her age, who would want her? Poor girl." Her words cut me open in front of strangers. My brothers laughed, adding their own cruel jokes. They wanted me broken. They wanted me to surrender, and each time I nodded, lowered my eyes, and quietly added another stone to the fire burning inside me. At night, when they slept, I searched. I searched through files, drawers, safes. Every paper I touched felt like a betrayal. Every shadow in the hall reminded me I could be caught. But I didn't care. I needed proof. I needed something that would expose them for who they were. And slowly, piece by piece, I began to collect. Receipts, letters, bank slips, little things that showed my father's intentions. He had written notes in margins, left instructions that contradicted the fake will they forced on me. And I realized something even darker. It wasn't just my inheritance they stole. It was everything. They had been planning this long before my father died, manipulating him, isolating him, and in the end, silencing his true voice. One night, during a family dinner, I made the mistake of smiling at a memory of my father. My younger brother slammed his fist on the table. "Stop living in the past. Father gave us this responsibility. You should be grateful you're not on the streets." The room fell silent. My mother's lips curled into a thin smile, as if she agreed, and that was the moment I stopped crying. Something inside me hardened. The grief turned to hate. Not wild, reckless hate. No. This was colder, sharper. The kind of hate that plans, that waits, that cuts deeper than any sword. They thought they had broken me, but really, they had awakened me. One evening, as I walked through town, an old friend of my father's stopped me. He was a lawyer, someone my father trusted. He looked at me with pity in his eyes. "Child, your father loved you. Don't ever believe otherwise. He left things for you. But something happened. Something was changed." I wanted to tell him about the letter I had found, but I held back. I had learned not to trust easily. Still, his words confirmed what I already knew. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't imagining things. My father had intended for me to inherit, and they had stolen it. That night, as I stood alone in my room, staring at the envelope hidden under my pillow, I made myself a promise. They think they've won. They think I am weak, but I will not rest until the truth is known, until they feel every ounce of the humiliation they put me through, until I take back what is mine. I didn't know how yet. I didn't know when. But one thing was certain. My revenge had already begun, and so I stayed silent. I let them laugh. I let them mock me. I let them believe they were untouchable. Because the sweetest revenge is the one they never see coming. And I was patient. Oh, I was very, very patient. I never thought the human heart could carry so much pain. By the time the will was officially read, I had already prepared myself for betrayal, but not for the cruelty that awaited me. The lawyer's office smelled of old wood and dust, like secrets trapped in time. I sat at the long polished table trembling while my brother, his wife, and my uncle exchanged smug glances, like wolves waiting for blood. The lawyer adjusted his glasses and began to read. Each word felt like a dagger in my chest. My father, the man who raised me, the man who once promised to protect me, had left almost everything, our house, the land, the company shares, to my brother. To me, a single locket, a tiny piece of jewelry I hadn't seen in years. When the lawyer placed it in my hand, I felt my world collapse. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But all I could do was sit in silence, my tears burning like fire inside my chest. Fair enough, my brother smirked. She was never really part of this family. That one sentence shattered me, because in that moment, I realized they had rewritten my entire existence. I walked home that evening with the locket clenched so tightly in my fist that it cut into my skin. I wanted answers. I needed to know why my father had done this. Inside the locket, there was a faded photograph of my mother, the woman who had died when I was only 6. But behind the photo, folded neatly, was a note. With trembling hands, I opened it. My dearest daughter, it read, if you are holding this, it means I am gone. The truth has been hidden from you, but I trust you will uncover it. The family you thought was yours has betrayed you in ways you cannot yet imagine. Seek the hidden box in the old study, behind the false wall. You will understand everything. My heart stopped. I ran to the old house, to the study I hadn't entered in years. The air was thick with dust and the floor creaked under my weight. With shaky fingers, I tapped along the wall until I heard a hollow sound. I pried it open, and there it was. A small, locked wooden box. Inside were letters, documents, photographs. And with every page I read, the truth unraveled like a nightmare. My uncle and brother had manipulated my father for years. They forged documents, whispered lies into his ears, and slowly poisoned his trust in me. They told him I was reckless, unworthy, even dangerous. But worse, they had hidden the truth about my inheritance. My mother had left me everything, her land, her savings, her shares in the company. But the documents showed how my uncle had stolen it all, moving assets in secret, burying her legacy under forged signatures. My blood boiled. My hands shook. For the first time, I wasn't just heartbroken. I was furious. Confronted my brother days later. He laughed in my face, holding a glass of whiskey, his arrogance filling the room. Do you really think anyone will believe you? He sneered. The will is signed. The documents are legal. You're nothing now. Nothing. But he didn't know what I had. He didn't know the box held more than papers. It held proof. Signed letters, bank statements, and one shocking confession. A letter written by my father in his final days. My mind has been clouded, it read. I don't know what is real anymore. But if you find this, know that my brother has betrayed us both. The night before I took everything to the lawyer, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if revenge would ever fill the emptiness in my heart. And then, I remembered my mother's words, written in her delicate handwriting. You must fight for what is yours. Do not let them steal your voice. So I did. The case tore the family apart. Courtrooms became battlefields. Secrets spilled like blood. My uncle's lies crumbled under evidence, and my brother's arrogance turned to fear as his empire collapsed. But justice came with a cost. I didn't just lose them. I lost the illusion of family forever. When the final judgment was announced, granting me my rightful inheritance, I felt no victory. Only silence. A silence so heavy it echoed in my bones. I walked out of that courtroom, free, but also empty. Because in the end, revenge doesn't heal. It only exposes the wounds that were always there. And now, I tell you this story not because I want your pity, but because I want you to know. Money, inheritance, power, none of it matters if love and loyalty are stolen. I carry my mother's locket still, not for what it represents in wealth, but for what it represents in truth. The truth they tried to bury. The truth that nearly destroyed me. The truth that set me free. And maybe, just maybe, if this story touched your heart, if it made you feel the weight of betrayal, the silence of broken families, and the strength it takes to rise again, then I ask you to stay with me. Subscribe to this channel because there are so many stories still buried in shadows. Stories of loss, betrayal, greed, and the mysterious paths life forces us to walk. Stories that deserve to be told, so no voice is ever silenced again. Your one click, your one share, your one comment. It may seem small, but it means the world to me. It means you are standing beside me in this journey, refusing to let the truth be buried. So subscribe now.